Valley already putting on a show of their best of their winter colors. I don't know where the summer's gone, but it looks like it's definitely fall and getting close to Halloween. We have been going south for Halloween for a few years. Then this COVID came along and we haven't had the chance to go any place at that time of year. So it's a very welcome sight to start seeing the country as we move on south. As we move on south, we get an up-close look at the devastation of the forest fires in the Cascade Mountains that happened over a year ago, but they're still salvage logging it and cleaning up the mess. What a terrible disaster. It's not all a sad disaster as we look ahead and see the trees are wearing their very best of brilliant fall color. As we wind our way eastward up the Santiam Pass, we see decks of salvaged logs that are all fire killed alongside the road on both sides of the road, and were stopped numerous times while they load log trucks to haul these logs to the mill. Good thing they're making something out of the disaster.
On this side of the road. Boy, they're really cutting them. Look, here's another pile right here.
Detroit Reservoir is extremely low on water now. They're going to have to teach those fish to walk, it looks to me like. Past some of the burned out towns and village, we see the disaster unfold in front of our very eyes as we move on up toward the summit of Santiam Pass. But there's a bright spot. Some of them are rebuilding, but very, very slowly. A weeping willow with its finest of fall colors. We see log trucks time after time again as they're heading for the mill with their load of logs to be salvage sawed. It makes me very sad to see all these beautiful trees killed by the fire, but it makes you feel just a little bit better to see that they're not just laying there rotting. And the deciduous trees are looking really good this year with their real brilliant yellows and oranges. It just lights up the highway like if it were a floodlight. The Santiam River still flowing even though it's extremely low levels, but at least it's flowing and you can hear it roaring in the background. And finally, we're out of the reaches of the fire back into normal forest. What a wonderful sight. We travel through a corridor of trees with their beautiful greens and the deciduous with their wonderful fall colors as we wind our way toward the summit of Santiam Pass. Over the pass and down the east side of the Santiam Pass, here, like magic, the trees have changed species. We see aspen and ponderosa pine and lodgepole pine, where on the other side of the pass we only saw the Douglas fir was the main one and cedars. We go down to the town of Sisters, and here's their town herd of deer running around in their city park, with even a little buck out showing off his nicely polished little single spike of antlers. South down Highway 95, our little V6 pushes us southward toward the sunshine. From the looks of this tall, slender fellow, he better be getting off that road. So I'm going to have to get out and chase him off the road before he gets ran over by a car tire. And he didn't want to leave. He was enjoying that road. But with a gentle nudge from a little stick, he decided that maybe that road wasn't as good as it was cracked up to be, and crawled off into the brush where he could hide and live on as a little snake and slither around the desert. Next, we encounter the masters of survival on the desert, the burros. They can live out here where there's hardly anything to eat. Many animals would starve to death in this environment, but these guys get fat out here, just eating a few sticks or whatever they can find, and they're even multiplying in numbers. They've been out here since the miners of old would bring them to work their claims in the winter when it's cool enough to work here, and then in the summer when it was by far too hot to work. They found that rather than take these animals out, they could fend for themselves, and they could catch them then the next winter and put them back to work. As we move on, we see some of the old relics from when Detroit was king as far as manufacturing cars, and there's a mass grave of these Detroit monsters right here in this wash. There was none of these foreign cars much around at that time, and if you wanted one of these, they had a lot of good metal, and they were fast, old cars, and pretty tough, a lot of steel in them, and you could even go back to Detroit and pick it up right there and save you a little money. But now they're just littered right in the water.
Yeah, there's some. Yeah.
All kinds of junk there.
And how about an old train carrier that a dump truck bed has been mounted on? And it's left here for nature to take care of. Hidden in the brush, we find this old Chinese baking oven. The Chinese were here to do some work that probably not much of anybody else would do in the hot sun.
What do you see in there, Robert?
And so they built an oven to bake in right here in one of the fans back in the mesquite grove. It has sat here for about 110 years, and it looks like if you were to clean the pack rat middens out of it, that probably it would still work and bake a wicked loaf of bread. That sure looks like a good idea. Build one in your backyard and do your baking there. That'd be a real good survival of the miners of old had an Erastus to grind their ore up into fine enough pieces they could pan it or sluice it right here in this Erastus. And this is a super excellent one and super old. If you examine it, there used to be a post in the center, and then a pole came out from the side across the sidewalk, and then a burro would go round and round and round till he played out, and then another one would be put on to go round and around and drag a big boulder round and around to grind the ore. You'll see some of these have scratch marks. You can see the scratch marks on them, and some of them are out of level. And I think the reason they're out of level is not that it wasn't level in the first place, because I expect it was, but probably people have pried these rocks up to get the ore that was down in the cracks and didn't get them back down exactly right. But it's a real excellent example of an Erastus in the desert, where the earliest of miners ground their ore. And the rock they pulled around is laying right alongside it. And it is one heavy rock. You can see the extremely smooth surface of the rock. And then as you look at the back of it, you'll see the attachment points. And these attachment points were just holes drilled in the rock, and then you'd put a cable in there and just pour lead in the hole, and that would hold really, really well. There the attachment holes are in the big drag stone. And I imagine that thing weighed a plenty.
You gonna grind us some seeds up there, Robert?
I don't know. This looks like kind of a soft rock, though.
They always chose the light-colored, softer rocks. So when they ate their food, you get a certain amount of rock in it.
Yeah.
And if they used the softer rock, it didn't wear their teeth down nearly as bad.
Yeah.
They even have it so you can step up there to get up
that's
there.
what came up right
Made it easy for the women to get up there to grind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and here's their grinding holes. Some are much bigger than others, and some of them had a little mixing place. Like this one has a little place to mix things.
Oh.
See the little one alongside it?
Uh-huh.
It's for mixing.
Oh.
And then the little couplets that are up here, some say they're a map of the stars. And of course no two archaeologists are going to agree with things. Some disagree with it. And so if you know your constellations, maybe you could pick one out. There's another bunch of the little couplets that are supposedly a map of the stars, or maybe something else. And then you're up here where you can look out all over where the village was. They lived all over this area. Several women could grind at one time up here. There's enough of them. And when you had things to mix, you'd probably use these two. And another Wikiac circle, and they were just all over out here. A horseshoe on this rock that's been long, and it's a handmade one. It's really old. Yeah, that's a hand forged one, and it's kind of narrow like a mule shoe. But normally you didn't shoe mules.
Why did it come up like that?
I think that's for protection for the back of their foot. Or
The back.
oh, wait a minute, that's
back of the foot?
That's the bottom of the horseshoe.
It's like this.
Yeah.
Because it
and
gets
so
nailed
that
in
was
like this.
what you
yeah.
call sharpshoed. That gave them extra traction.
Oh, okay.
Here's probably a hearth they built in front of their cave shelter. And the cave shelter is painted with red ochre. as decorations, and they probably had mats over the top some to extend it out more. And there are petroglyphs all through this. Seldom Seen Slam is still staring out over the desert. Right there, you see him, Robert?
Yep.
Seldom Seen Slim. Still that stern look on with his cowboy hat. See, that's absolutely, most definitely a cowboy hat. There they are, the bighorn sheep, etched deeply into the stone, and a turtle below them. There's their fertility symbol carved deeply into the basalt rock in the black oxide, and a lot of other things on this rock as well. The macho hunters, the three-legged men, here in the rock for all to see. That one guy's pretty happy, huh?
Yeah. I don't see bighorn.
The bighorn sheep peeking out at us. There's a really nice medicine wheel carved deeply into the oxide of that basalt boulder. And more petroglyphs, mostly just designs. There's a bighorn sheep that's in an awful hurry with the lamb following, and then bighorn sheep all over the rest of the rock.
Oh.
There's the bighorn sheep laid out for slaughter, and that's a very nice big one. The woolly mammoth and the monkey. I'm still a believer in it.
Sure. Why not?
And there is the woolly mammoth.
Yeah.
And see his eye and his ear and the mammoth hunt and 4 legs.
Yeah.
And
Alrighty.
then tally marks above and some other stuff, I can't tell what it is, on the rest of the rock, but they respected it enough no one did anything over it, so
Yeah.
and it 3 wikiac circles right in a line here. Oh, and more down below.